Hello, folks. It's George Leoniak, and welcome to New Geometry. I'm super excited today for a few reasons. Today's my birthday video, so I'm excited to be celebrating that here with you today. Put together a fantastic video that is going to be about Metatron's cube, and in particular, the fruit of life and the circle pattern associated with that. And I have some awesome golden ratio discoveries in there that are going to completely rework that pattern and make the dodecahedron and icosahedron and those golden ratio forms a real easy way to draw. So let me go ahead and share the presentation, and we'll get started working our way through it and connecting to some of these new discoveries. This past month, I've been really working to develop the Way of Sacred Geometry course, which I'll be sharing a little bit about at the end of this as well. So I hope you enjoy this one. And I'm going to start it out with one of my traditional slides, one of my first few videos where I made a kind of breakthrough video on the Metatron's cube and showing for the first time, and I have a series of videos on this, maybe 5 or 6 videos more, about Metatron's cube not containing the icosahedron and dodecahedron. This video is certainly not about that really at all, because that's really been covered in the other videos. What I would like to do is show you how this fruit of life pattern, which is the 13 circles, can be used to actually generate those forms, those golden ratio forms with the big red circle crosses there. So just one quick talk about the dodecahedron. This is pretty much the only thing I'm going to get into here, just so you know where the inaccuracy lies. And I have another one showing the icosahedron later on when we talk about that form. The golden ratio proportioned dodecahedron has edge lengths here across the face of the pentagon face here. If that was 1.618, the back edge would be 1 inch. And in the Metatron's cube depiction of that in the fruit of life, what winds up happening there is we have a 1:2 ratio. When you divide these two numbers here, you'll see that it's just if this length was 2, then this back edge is 1. Okay, so I've covered this a lot in other videos. Like I said, this isn't all about that, because this is going to lead to the new discoveries that are going to be driving the rest of this video. All right, so it is all about the circles that guide the lines. The thing is with the Metatron's cube drawing here is that the lines are pretty much focused on all the centers of the circles. And my way of working with the circles, that I like to think is really the new way of going about it, has a lot to do with where those circles are going to interact at the connection points between the two circles where the circles meet. It's always an exploration for me to see how circles relate with one another, and then how that creates the nodes for the lines to create different opportunities to create hidden mysteries and gems that can be discovered within these templates. So I'm going to show you later on in the video how I came to this discovery, but I'm going to break it down this way and start with the fruit of life and the seed of life. And these two drawings, they're going to be scaled proportionally. This is if this is unit 1 circle, well, this is 2, okay, from here to here. So I'm going to take these two, I'm going to combine the two together, the fruit and the seed, laying them over top into this lower drawing here that I have here with the blue and red circles. And what happens there is really quite fascinating, because all of a sudden the interaction between the two circles, the red circle extending all the way out, so here's the 3 circles stacked in a row here, one out all the way out to the far end. And the blue circle, if I draw a line from the outside furthest point on the 2 red circles directly across, where it intersects the blue circle is going to be a golden proportion there between the the dividing point here at the blue circumference of the circle. If this length were 1 in the blue circle, then the remainder on either side of it is 0.618, which is very cool. Here's a little test down here. I think I'll show you that later on, because it really creates the square root of 5 across that length. So that was a cool discovery to see what happens when that seed and fruit come together. We actually get very ripe. The whole drawing becomes ripe with the golden ratio. And of course, for me, once that shows up now organically in the drawing, right, just by the combination of those two circles, well, that now allows for the opportunity to construct a golden ratio proportion dodecahedron. So our golden ratio forms begin to grow into this pattern, which is based on those 13 circles of the fruit of life and the 7 circles of the seed of life. And it's really about the combination of both of those, and essentially the lines being guided by those circles here and interacting with the circles at these key points. Well, this essentially is giving us Drunvalo Melchizedek, and I'll mention him in the upcoming slides here too, is going to give us that missing line that he called in his book when he hunted around for the dodecahedron, where he thought that he had found it back in here, the short little line segment in the drawing. And that was only 40 years ago that he did discover that. And as I've discussed in many videos, that version of the dodecahedron has become the most popular version you'll ever see. And people adamantly believe that that is it, even when shown the truth of this geometry, that the golden proportion is maintained within this dodecahedron face. But I've talked about this in so many other videos. Please check those out. So I've just overlaid this dodecahedron on here. And this is the drawing underneath. So those are just the drawing with the proportions. But there's the key intersection. And we do pick up another line when we send it across here to get the meeting point here in the middle. And of course, that has a golden proportion circle to the one that would be around the hexagon around this dodecahedron. So that is one simple way to generate the dodecahedron in here. And after this discovery of doing this drawing, I was like, oh, well, here's the drawing of it. So I came down and did the drawing, and it's totally fun and easy to draw. It's a super simple setup. And I will be, in the future, doing a Metatron's Cube class, a pre-recorded course. It's going to go through all the Metatron's Cube discoveries, or a lot of them, and show the various different techniques to produce the golden ratio forms. And we'll even draw Metatron's Cube and focus on the cube and the octahedron and the cube octahedron within that, rather than try to put the golden ratio forms. But with this pattern, we do have the 13 circles all being necessary for the construction. It's actually the first pattern that I've seen of all of them that actually requires the 13 circles to do the drawing, where most drawings that you generally put them in just to have them in there to make it look like the fruit of life was doing something for the construction. But for this one, it actually is doing something, because it's giving us the distant point here to go ahead and get those missing line segments when they hit the seed of life. And there are a few different routes to get to this, and I'll explain what those are in a bit. So after doing the drawing and discovery, I was really like, you know, Drunvalo Melchizedek was the person who made the seed of life, flower of life, fruit of life, Metatron's Cube, highly popularized that with his books, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. And I was really curious to go down and see if any of the drawings in his book had this hidden within it. And I found one, this figure here, for 1035, the Flower of Life in the New Grid. And I even drew this right into the book because it was such a cool discovery. There are the golden ratio calipers. Here's my drawing of it to the left. It's just easy, relatively easy drawing to do, kind of a neat pattern. But there is the same line that goes from the fruit of life circles. You could see there are 13 of them. I have them grayed out a little more here so we could see them. And there's the discovery that I showed you in the beginning. This just has a lot more, but this is one pattern in the book where it was in here. Is this new news for Drinvalo? I hope that it does make it to his ears so he can, or eyes, so that he can see that this was a discovery that was hidden in there. Because if he did know about it, and maybe he does, I think he would have made a different choice about finding the missing lines that he was looking for, the dodecahedron, which he searched for many years trying to discover. And this technique here in the design that he did in the book there, with just drawing, not at the center of the circles, see it's at the far end of the circle at this point, at the unit 5 mark out from the unit 1. That's how far this is out to the fruit of life. From there, if we draw our big star, that will intersect those seed of life circles and go ahead and give us the point. Now, if we just go from the centers of the circles, we're hunting around for the missing lines, really in the wrong spot, and it will give us the distorted cube within the dodecahedron, because remember, there are 5 cubes in there. And I really think that if this came to light much sooner, at least within this circle template, with this design here, the past 40 years of sacred geometry would have been totally different with the golden revelations that could come about for understanding how the golden ratio works in these circle templates. But I'm predicting that the next 40 years are going to be a lot different and much more golden revelations to be had for sure. So, so here are some other little explorations that I had with this new discovery here. Just some other patterns that I've worked with in the past, because I love to see how things are all interconnected. Of course, right in the dodecahedron here, we can go ahead and do the infinite golden hexagon, the fractal implosion here, with what I like to call the golden snowflake. Just easily, the lines are just going to show up, and we can lay that right into the fruit of life, seed of life pattern here. The lines crossing here, they'll also give us the tree of light in the middle, which is an awesome diagram. It's the icosahedron stellation diagram, and some of my videos talk about that as a polygon and construction of lots of new forms associated with it. And in the same pattern, I can draw a few other dodecahedron at different scales within the pattern. So I have 3 in here. Those other 2 are inside it or rotated 30 degrees. And here I'm just having too much fun with the lines, as it actually contains all the platonic solids within that drawing. But it's a lot to take in, but also a kind of cool pattern to contemplate. So we've got the icosahedron as well, and we have a simple way to draw it in that circle template as well. And it also comes down to sending your line through that special little magic point where those intersections are between the 2 circles. And that's going to guide us just past the intersection of where the circle of the fruit of life is, just past it. So it's not ever going to line up directly on it. Like, you know, that would be fudging it a little bit if you make the connection point there and you mess with the golden proportion that underlies it, and forms that are built off of that in the future are just going to have that distortion. And this one over here is definitely off. Of course, I've talked about this in videos. You need this bend here. You can't put 2 equilateral triangles inside one another. That's the Metatron's cube version of the icosahedron. Total dead end, just dead end, just like the dodecahedron is there. It's going to cut you off from any opportunity to really explore and learn about the platonic solids and their interrelationships through that. So the icosahedron is saying, no more distortions, please. It's a golden icosahedron. It's not an isometric view, and that's what this is locking it into basically an octahedron layout here. See, so this is just an octahedron, and I have images and other videos of the actual form in hand showing you what that looks like. So yeah, this is a nice technique to do it. Like I said, simple drawing to do it all in. And we can then go from there, and now we can now nest all the platonic solids into both of those types of patterns that I've shown. So far, I've shown the large icosahedron, which is now all the way out at the unit 5 mark on the large circle here. And then we can also do it off of the dodecahedron, but then we'll have to pick up the icosahedron here. This is going to show the nesting of the platonic solids as a compound. This will show it more as a kind of stellation of the dodecahedron, creating the icosahedron around it. And that's what these dotted lines are, because they're crisscrossing internal geometry in those pentagon faces within the planes of the icosahedron. They're going to nest the dodecahedron, and then the dodecahedron will nest the cube, which is in black in both these pictures. And then I have my 2 tetrahedron, which are the star tetrahedron. That's inside the cube, on the faces of the cube, those lines. And then inside the cube is the octahedron, and that's the same thing over here. The 2 drawings are 2 different scales, so this one doesn't just fit right inside this one. So that's a little funky that the other golden circle patterns that I've come up with, they tend to be more, they're overlap in terms of the build out between the 2, the compounded version and the stellation version. They all fit kind of a little more simply when we're just working strictly with the golden circles, as I've shown in other videos. But since this one is totally all about the fruit of life and seed of life combo here, then this is how it one way that it's appearing to work so far. Hopefully somebody else will explore it some more and come up with some other unique solutions, but this one seems like a good one so far. And here's that KNEW grid here, and what I was having fun with here was basically showing, and there's a lot of lines that are left out of this, but I can go ahead and basically construct this totally holographic fractal version of the icosahedron, where each sphere starts to take on a nesting of the dodeca and icosa in every single sphere, and of course all nested within a larger one. And you could see that this is a bunch of spheres now at different scales, and all sorts of implosion is going on in each of these, and any one of these could have the next larger icosahedron around it, and so on and so forth. So you can have a lot of fractal, what's the word I'm looking for? The quantum entanglement. Yeah, you can have like a very entangled dodecahedron, icosahedron, golden ratio mix. And remember that all the other cubes and platonic solids, tetrahedra, octahedra, all that is all within the dodecahedron. So we have that all at multiple scales within a drawing like that. And because I also thought this is just a cool looking diagram, but in each of those spheres also, we've got this diagram that I call the tree of light, which is Coxeter's stellation diagram, which was actually first drawn by, we believe probably first drawn by Max Bruckner at the 19th century, or beginning of the 19th century. And basically what I did here in this drawing is just show that all the circle interaction spots between the different size circles are giving us all the points we need to go ahead and fill up all these spheres with the stellation diagram, and 18 points in the middle. So if the tree of light is not something that you're familiar with watching this video, or that diagram that I'm talking about, which is the icosahedron stellation diagram, but I've discovered so much more applicability in rest of sacred geometry and have very simple construction techniques. Just go ahead and search in tree of light, and you pretty much find the only YouTube videos on earth about it on new geometry. So you'll come up with something there, or check out Coxeter's stellation diagram of 59 icosahedra. You'll learn more there too, which I have a lot of videos on that as well. So here's this amazingly cool breakthrough, and it's not even how I discovered it is what I'm showing you here. This all came after the fact. So this is what I want to get to next, is show you how this discovery came to be, because it wasn't through this. Let me see if I draw a line across here, is it going to be golden proportion? After studying the golden proportion so much, you'll develop an eye for it to start to measure where you think it might be. This didn't pop out to me when I first saw it. And I imagine it probably wouldn't to many people to decide to just take their phi calipers, if they own them, to just see that this is golden proportion. But this is one of the tests that I showed earlier. If I do the square here and I take the midpoint, drop it down to the diagonal, draw a circle around there, well, that is going to be the square root of 5 here. And of course, that's showing me that I have one in the middle and 0.618 on either side. And that will be the square root of 5. So, but this is how I got to this amazing discovery and breakthrough, because it had really nothing to do with this circle pattern at first. In my previous 2 videos to this one, if you go and check out my videos right before this video, I have 2 videos from earlier last month that are all about the square roots and sacred geometry, and about the way of sacred geometry and learning to master the compass. Now, that square root diagrams is really what led me to start to see the interactions of how these square root circles, these large circles that are on here, we're going to start to interact with the regular unit 1 circle that grows itself out. And as I was doing that, I'll show you in a few other slides, then I started to make connections and see where the golden ratio was showing up in this diagram, these large circles that you see here. And that gave me the connection points to make these large equilateral triangles here you see. And that was the first place where I was able to draw the dodecahedron. And then I kind of reversed engineered it and then came up with this afterwards to actually see that, wow, those are actually the circles of the fruit of life if I start with this circle pattern at the beginning of the seed of life. This is what those 2 methods look like if I combine them together. So we've got these large circles, and I'll talk about what measurements they are and all that stuff in just a minute, because they're all sacred portions of the square roots. But leave that aside now, and then we'll describe what's going on with that in a minute. But I'm just showing you that when we take the 2 previous drawings I've shown, we'll see that we have these large circles interacting and giving us the key node points to do essentially the same locations that the fruit seed drawing was doing earlier. The 2 are the same thing. I just come about it in a totally different way. And as I said, it's really about, this is from that first video of the sacred root video, the sacred relationships, roots of a relationship video, where I was really digging into circle patterns that create an infinite circle, square root pattern. And this is just showing root 2 all the way out to root 16 in this circle progression that I didn't use any lines to do. It was just based on working with the seed of life and the compass. And so this is when a geometer moves, someone who's into sacred geometry, let's say, and moving past just looking at sacred geometry to starting to want to interact with it, maybe you'll start to do artistic representations of drawings and things like that, which is totally beautiful. And as you get deeper and deeper into your journey as a sacred geometer, you're going to start to want to develop a relationship to these square roots, because that is one of the key features of what is making sacred geometry sacred. It's more than just putting any circles on the page. The relationships of these circles have unique relationships with one another that are producing these sacred values and that are going to create, and they're going to produce the forms. They're going to interact and produce these sacred forms that we're working with. So it's all connected. And That's what the Way of Sacred Geometry new course I was talking about in the beginning is really going to get you into. But this is just my process before I even got to doing those videos of what I was working on. So this is from the video, the Sacred Roots of Relationship video. As I was building out the circle patterns, this is one of the slides in there, and this didn't come to me right away. I didn't draw the dodecahedron, but I was noticing when I was using root 14 circles, they create a root 13 circle. Root 15 circles, these large ones, create root 14. And at root 16, the large circles are root 16 going around, they create root 15, which is the black circle. And that right there, I even say it in the video, at root 15, fruit of life. That's where the fruit of life showed up in the diagram. Now I kept going, and even went further all the way out to route 25. And when I hit route 25, which is 5, remember that is the fruit of life. It's unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you count all the little flower petals that would get there on the on that drawing, if you count all these little segments, you would count out to the 5 segments to get all the way out there. So it'd be square root of 5 circle all the way around. So let me go back to that last slide. And so we've got the unit route 15 circle here, and we've got 1, 2, I guess I could show it on this one, 3, 4, 5, all the way out to the end there. So we can go and get the route 15, and that became one of the key circles in the diagram. All right, this is better, I guess, to show it. Ready? So from the front middle here, 1, 2, so this is unit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that would be giving you the square root of 25, which is 5. And that's where this blue circle ends up, way out at the far end. But as it's crisscrossing around, that is a root 16 circle. Now, root 16 is 4, so that's just 4 units of this, but it's placed on this node right here, not here, but it's right here. So if you spin circles off of the node just 1 unit away from the middle at unit 4, and you make your circles around that, and all of a sudden you get these key nodal points, which give you route 15. All right, so when you do that, then all of a sudden, that's the same diagram. Here it is, route 16 giving me route 25 way at the far end, and also route 15, which is going to be right in over here. And there I can draw these lines to go across, and all of a sudden, the large equilateral triangles, then that's going to give me the same point on the dodecahedron that I showed you early on. And here I haven't drawn the big seed of life in this pattern at all. I've just used those large circles to do it, which are the 4-inch long circles, or unit 4 circles, which are the square root of 16. So these are the key circles in that drawing. You'll wind up getting the square root of 5 in it. You're using the square root of 4, square root of 15, 16, and square root of 25. So those are the key circles in the pattern. Now it's totally taken on a different flavor than just working with the unit 1 circles and just the circle pattern that I showed before. But this is really starting to get into the proportions and relationships amongst these circles, and understand that there's more going on to this pattern of just one size circle of this pattern. There's a lot more that can be done with it. So here's the diagram, and you can get to this drawing to draw the dodecahedron in this pretty simple way. It's a totally unique way to do it. It's really interesting to me of how this came to be. But here are all the values that I did in the GeoGebra program, showing the key values that show up at these intersections when I draw the circle template using the unit 1 circle and using the unit square root of 16, which is the 4, I guess. Is that what I got there? Yep. And then that's going to go ahead and produce the rest of the circle pattern all the way around. So let's see here. We've got the easy and fun way to draw it is just by going ahead and trying it out with the paper and pen. And if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, you take that measurement, go ahead and pop it over here, make those large circles, and you go ahead and you've got all the intersection points, and that will intersect with those key spots to go ahead and draw the dodecahedron. It's like that simple. And that was really mind blowing to me, that this is a way that can produce a dodecahedron, and that it essentially is the same dodecahedron pattern that I had showed you at the beginning of the video, which is, it is the same circle template layout as this one here. So two things are one here. It's the same elephant, I guess, and we're just feeling different parts of it, thinking they're two different things, but those large circles are producing the same key points that you need to do the same dodecahedron that we're reaching out to touch there. So we can do the same thing also with the icosahedron, and same little magical process works here. We've got our fruit of life drawing, the fruit seed one, and we've got the same key intersections that I talked about before. And here we just have a different way of picking up the same points, utilizing the same size setup with those Route 16 circles, creating the Route 15 intersections. So that was really amazing and mind-blowing to me, how the exploration of those square root patterns led out to this kind of fusion and interconnection back to these fruit of life pattern, the 13 circles. It kind of like really cracked the code for me to what's the relationship between all these square roots and the seed of life, fruit of life pattern. And then how do we actually put the sacred forms into that geometry and pick up those missing lines and everything like that to draw the dodecahedron and icosahedron. It's like, all right, if you want the fruit of life and you want that style of look for drawing your golden proportion forms, well, this is a great way to do it. This is the only one I've seen, like I said before, that actually utilizes the fruit of life in the construction method to do it. And it really comes down to that Route 15 circle, and it's actually hidden in the diagram itself when the blue and red circle are interacting right at that key point right there. If you set your compass at the center point and make a circle at that key intersection, well, that's Route 15 right there. And then that allows to go ahead and draw in the triangles to create the dodecahedron, and you've got your missing lines picked up right over there. Totally amazing. What's hidden right there in that pattern all along, it's what really I think happened with this pattern is we did remove, or let's see, way back at the beginning here, the drawings got so focused just on these 13 circles, and the seed of life was just kept down in the middle here. It wasn't left to interact, so they would combine to be a unified drawing. And I think Tronvalo's diagram here, although I don't believe he was aware of that golden proportion within that, this new grid he called it, yeah, well, that would have made a difference. You know, that would have made a difference knowing about this golden proportion in there and how that showed up. I think in the last 40 years, it would have opened up to all these missing line discovery for the dodecahedron, all in there. It was the combination of those two circles coming together to generate something that neither one of them are doing alone. And it's cool that they're both just based on two 2-inch radius circles and the 1-inch radius circles. And the two are kind of meant to be together like that. And then all of a sudden it produces the Route 15 circle in there. And that Route 15 circle is what I'm describing. It's giving you all these key intersections to go ahead and do the drawing. So here are the dodecahedron and icosahedron. When I, from that last drawing here, which is this one here, if I go ahead and use Route 15 and pick up my icosahedron and dodecahedron. I've got a few little places I can actually get the lines to pick up the hexagon for the icosahedron in this drawing, as well as the dodecahedron, which I showed you before. And I utilized this location here with this rotated 30-degree smaller equilateral triangles to pick up those points on this one as well. So like I said in the beginning of the video, the circles totally guide the lines in this type of way of doing geometry here. It's looking for those small little intersections in the relationships amongst the circles, and not just going from center point to center point and hoping that everything is in there when you've never even changed your compass radius in the circle drawings. There's so much more that's going to happen when the compass radius is changed. That's where all the sacred roots and proportions and ratios start to emerge, is in all those different types of interactions. And then the golden ratio, like I said, just becomes ripe and creates golden fruit. And there's a lot more discoveries. I've got a little sequence probably in another video coming up where I show some other cool constructions of golden ratio based on these square root templates. And this was just a really pretty one that I really loved. It's a total new golden way to interrelate to the sacred geometry. These are all points that are just in the hexagon grid, right? Was just within the flower of creation type of grid, as it's often called, the flower of life grid, just that hexagon grid that goes out. Well, of course, we've got the large circle, and I said that that's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units long, so that's the route 25. And by placing our circle here, which is going to be the unit 3 circle, creating 2 9 circles, right? So square root of 9 circles, that gives us root 5. And then from 1 to here, root 5, well, that's the golden proportion. And from route 5 to route 25, that's the golden proportion. So we got a double golden proportion that just blossoms right out of this hexagon grid, just like that. And then I have a number of other constructions like this that I'll do in a future video to go through those. But this is just showing how much more there is to explore from the simple hexagon grid like this, and seeing how the sacred roots relate to this material, I think is really the next, it's at least been a new frontier for me to explore, and I hope you get excited about it too. And I know it may be overwhelming for a lot of people who are a little like freaked out about the roots and the math. It's just want to draw and not get focused on those relationships, but you really can do both, and both are going to deepen your appreciation for a full, well-rounded relationship to sacred geometry. And what I've tried to do here is this new course that I did at the beginning of these months. And as I was doing this course, Paul is getting download for all these other drawings that I just did in this, which will be part of the Metatron's course. It's a follow-up course to this. But this way of sacred geometry is really meant to help you develop a practice around sacred geometry. 18 video lessons, roughly about 20 minutes a piece, that are going to walk through a sacred square root template and then creating some beautiful circle patterns, all based off the seed of life. And I'm going to show you where, 5 different versions of the dodecahedron drawings can be done in there, and where the golden ratio shows up in these 5 templates, and a few other cool templates in there. And it's really meant to just get you in the rhythm of working with the compass regularly and building the familiarity with it and starting to understand the pattern language through the visual, as well as some of the mathematical root components that are going to blend together and fuse in here. It's going to be a real nice foundation to get started in sacred geometry if you're into exploring more. So check that out. I think it's a great deal at the $54 mark to get that much content and some great instruction. It's going to really open up a new way, KNEW way of exploring sacred geometry. It's totally not your run-of-the-mill basic sacred geometry, popularized sacred geometry that you see out there, and is going to set off the course for that next 40-year golden revelations of expansions that I was describing. So if you're new to sacred geometry, it's totally meant for you, and I hope you'll go ahead and check it out. Also got an apprenticeship coming up October 30th. If you want to take a deep dive into learning with me directly, that would be a great way to do it as well. So I just want to thank you for joining me here on this special day for me on my birthday, and I was really grateful to share this video with you. I hope you enjoyed this content and that it was inspiring and it was informative of the beautiful relationships between the circle templates and how they produce the golden ratio forms. And I'm just thankful to be here today sharing this content, and look forward to seeing you next time. Go ahead and check out the New Geometers Facebook group. That's a great little group I have over there at Facebook, 40,000 members now. So join over there. Some great geometers sharing material there. And check out New Geometry courses. That's where I'm offer all my courses and lots of ways to get into exploring sacred geometry from this new perspective. So have a fantastic day. Much love and appreciation, and I'll see you next time. Bye.